So Judge Cannon, as we're on the air now, is hearing the second day of this hearing. It's in federal court, so we're not getting audio from this, so just reporting from this. And the second day of hearing, she's really hearing from the defense team, from President Trump, and the government, so Jack Smith's team, on, again, these competing arguments about whether or not this appointment of Jack Smith as a special counsel is constitutional. Now, you could take this 50 different directions, but I think for her, what she's focusing in on is that Jack Smith as special counsel, when he was appointed, as of today, is not a confirmed government officer of the United States. He was formerly, a U.S. attorney. He was in those positions that had confirmations. He was, I think, the head of the criminal division, things like that. But he left that to go do some private work. He also did some kind of like semi-government work where he was doing work at the ICC on, I think it was Kosovo and things like that. But, we don't even give jurisdiction to the ICC, the United States. So that was definitely outside of his roles at the Department of Justice. So the question is, can an official like this, can an attorney general just pick a lawyer and say, now you have universal jurisdiction, basically, the entire country, to bring any criminal charge you want against this individual? So you can go to Florida for a case, you can go to New York for a case, you go to D.C. for a case, you go to California for a case. I will tell you, lawyers, both left and right, defense attorneys, have been fighting this issue for years. Most recently, just so you think this isn't some right wing, how they try to paint Judge Cannon as outside the mainstream, then ask Hunter Biden's lawyers. I bet they wish they had Judge Cannon out in some of their cases, like California, where they raised this specifically in the tax case, where they said this special counsel has no jurisdiction. They are not appointed constitutionally. Now, Logan, to be fair and to be honest, this is as far as this has ever gotten. We've never even gotten hearings on this. So the fact that there were hearings Friday and that there are hearings today, to even have the judge consider saying that she believes that the appointment of Jack Smith is unconstitutional, that is the furthest we've ever gotten in this argument. Now, some of that is because we used to have independent counsels. That office got closed. That's what Ken Starr was. And because we kind of are in this new era where we keep appointing special counsel after special counsel after special counsel in the Trump years. And so, again, we've raised it before. Courts have not really had an interest in it. But, Logan, if she decides ultimately that this appointment is unconstitutional, I mean, not only is this case way behind because of the classified documents, so we knew this wasn't going to be done before the election. This then puts into question, of course, the case out of D.C. Because, again, if the appointment is unconstitutional, you can't move forward with that case. So you'd have to take it to the appeals court. I have no idea what the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals would do. And then ultimately, my Lord, I know that the Supreme Court does not want to keep hearing these cases, but this is right up their alley.
Yeah,
I don't know how they would say no unless the 11th Circuit was just so clear. And the fact is, there haven't been other circuits that have taken that position. At the end of the Friday's hearing, Judge Cannon said, this has been very illuminating and helpful. Now, that statement, Logan, when you hear from both sides,
you don't want to lead into what it could mean, but you do kind of feel like it's telling.
Well, especially because she's taken so much heat. And I just want to remind you that Hunter Biden's attorneys, who are some of the best defense attorneys in the country, raise this very issue every time he's been brought up on charges by a special counsel. It's something defense attorneys, when dealing with special counsels, have been fighting for years.
Yeah, the debate's obviously this Thursday. The question is, does this get too heady to be brought up, these kind of things? Because I feel like the American people, obviously our listeners, our viewers on YouTube and Rumble, they're very well astute. Whenever we talk about Jack Smith, whenever we talk about any cases like this, we get a lot of viewers. A lot of people are very interested in it. But it is a bit broad, or not broad, it's a bit specific, a bit heady for the general public who's going to be watching.
Yeah, I wonder if it could be a response by Donald Trump. Like if, for instance, Biden was to attack him on going after the special counsel, I think Donald Trump, and I hope his team knows that if they're listening right now, that they could quickly turn around and say, well, why did your son file that? That this appointment was unconstitutional. You kind of just...
Because we have Joe Biden's going to have opening statements, I think is what they said, right? And that Trump closes? No opening statements. But I think he has the advantage, or whatever it would be. He had to pick what side he was going to be on. I think he gets the first question. So you also know that that was a coin flip. that happened over the Friday. So now there's that. But they also said, I think because of that, sort of like football, Donald Trump now I think gets to get the last word.
Thursday. This
Thursday. CNN, Dana Bash and Jake Tapper.
Eastern.
I would assume somewhere in that prime time. Yeah, everyone's doing pre and post coverage. I think it's on CNN, and I think there's simulcasts on a few networks. On News Nation, maybe some of the others. So it should be interesting.
Picking it up.
I think
kind of
so.
like they used to be able to do.
I think so. I want to take a phone call. We're in the middle of Life Week right now. This has been something, not the very beginning of Life Week. And again, Life Week, we're celebrating the overturning of Roe versus Wade 2 years ago today. And Jerry from Rhode Island has an interesting call because it kind of does tie into the Supreme Court and what's happening right now, even because it was that moment where the Supreme Court started to become a bit more politicized. You start seeing those protests happening out in front of people's houses. You start death threats to our justices. Jerry, Rhode Island, go ahead.
Hello, team. It's been 2 years ago we talked about this on the Dobbs decision, and it got leaked, and the Supreme Court is supposedly doing their own investigation. Any status on that?
I think it's over,
that investigation is over, and I think
inconclusive.
That was inconclusive, and I feel like the Supreme Court, again, on an issue that was controversial because of the leak, had decided it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Again, because the temperature got so high. Now, what it did, the leak, honestly, because I think for those of us on the pro-life side, we wanted to believe it was 100% true. Yeah. But literally, we've been fighting this battle since before we were born. And you weren't going to believe it was true until you got the actual opinion from the U.S. Supreme Court. It was done for the left.
Yeah.
And why do I say that? Because they were ready to go on the ground. It's like they already knew they had lost. And you could kind of tell the oral argument did not go well for them. So they went right into the states where they've got a lot more. They got $1 billion to spend. That's just Planned Parenthood, to make sure they would start their education campaign against any pro-life measures before any pro-life measures even made it to people's ballots. So what has worked in the states is legislative actions, gone through the state House, state Senate, to a pro-life governor. What has not worked, even in deeply red states, is when the voters vote on amendments, and that is because Planned Parenthood changes the topic. They put a nurse on a commercial, and they say, people are going to be dying at the hospital, or I had IVF, and now they're going to say I'm a murderer if I don't keep all of the embryos alive. All those kind of things that weren't true. And there were some missteps by some states.
Oh, and people can fall. I feel like they fall into traps all the time. I feel like that's happening in churches. I feel like it's happening in the IVF. They're falling into the far left's traps that then make this a much harder argument to win.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to take people's thoughts on this. Do you think because it's moved to the states, I think we need a massive amount of resources to do education campaigns. There are groups that are set up to do that. Of course, we are at the ACLJ as well. We don't just do the legal work. We've got ACLJ Action that can partner with those groups to make sure. My idea has been put the brakes on where you can and really prepare before you've got to go to the voters. Now, if you could do things legislatively, those voters are actually going to support it, those pro-life voters, especially here in a red state. But if you give them a vote and the other side is going to outspin you 10 or 20 to 1 with misleading ads, Logan, you're going to have people who consider themselves very pro-life, and they'll be at a church, the regular church attendees, very pro-life people who would consider themselves a pro-life activist. Yeah. And they will come in and then say, but I saw this ad, I think this goes too far, and they end up voting on the side of Planned Parenthood without knowing it.
Yeah, we need to be able to educate as well. Not only are we fighting in the battles in the courthouse, we're also fighting in the media and getting in front of people's faces. That's why it's so important for you to be on here, on YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook, or listening on radio or Sirius XM. It's so important to make sure that you are following what we're doing here, but also that is why we need your support. And right now we are, like I said, kicking off Life Week, which again, we are celebrating. That's what we're doing. We are celebrating it. But because we're celebrating it, we also know that the battle has not stopped. In fact, it has gotten heavier and heavier in state by state. We have to have people more expensive.
Outside Washington, it was very stuck in the federal courts. Now it's state to state. Yep. There's 50 states in the country. I mean, so you got 50 battles.
So right now, all you have to do is please go make a donation to the ACLJ, and all donations during Life Week over $60 will receive our ACLJ commemorative lapel pin celebrating the overturning of Roe. Jordan's wearing it right now. I have one right here in my hand. It is a great little piece. Obviously, it is just a gift to you for making that donation, not a purchase. This is just we want to give you something back for the fact that you have been so supportive of our pro-life work over the years. So I encourage you right now. We do have a limited supply. So get it while you can. I'll say that. Obviously, we'll fulfill absolutely as many as possible. And we do have plenty of them right now, though. We have a limited supply. Go to aclj.org/lifeweek and make that donation.